My son was standing in front of me in the entrance hall of the house I built with my own 2 hands, and the words that came out of his mouth froze me in place. I was 58 years old, and in all those decades, I thought I'd heard everything. I was wrong. "Starting today, Dad." He called me that ever since Richard died, as if I'd somehow become both parents rolled into one. "Your house is getting sold, and the money goes straight into my business. You don't need a roof over your head, just a cheap nursing home to rot in." I took a deep breath and didn't respond. My hands were shaking, so I clasped them together behind my back where he couldn't see. Marcus stood there with his arms crossed, wearing that expensive tech company t-shirt he'd bought with my money 3 months ago. His hair was messy in that deliberate way he thought made him look like a creative entrepreneur. He looked so much like Richard in that moment. Same jaw, same green eyes. But there was something twisted in his expression that his father never had. "Did you hear me?" he said, louder this time. "I'm not asking, Mom. I'm telling you. The papers are already drawn up. You're going to sign them tomorrow morning." I wanted to scream. I wanted to slap him across that smug face. I wanted to ask him when exactly my beautiful baby boy had turned into this stranger who spoke to me like I was garbage. But I'd learned something in my 58 years on this earth. Silence is more powerful than 1,000 arguments. So I just looked at him, really looked at him, and stayed quiet. Marcus took my silence as submission, just like he always did. A smile spread across his face, and it made my stomach turn. "Good. I knew you'd see reason eventually. You're getting old, Mom. You don't need all this space. A studio apartment in some assisted living facility is more than enough for someone your age." Someone my age. I was 58, not 88. I ran 5 miles every morning. I managed a $4.2 million investment portfolio. I spoke 3 languages. But to my own son, I was just some decrepit old woman taking up valuable real estate. "This house is worth $1.2 million easy," Marcus continued, walking around the foyer like he was already calculating how to spend it. "My business partners need capital injection by next month, or we lose everything. You understand that, right? This is a real opportunity, not like those other ventures." Those other ventures. That's what he called the 5 failed startups I'd funded over the past 10 years. $1.8 million, gone. Evaporated into thin air on apps nobody wanted, products nobody needed, and business plans that fell apart within 6 months. "I'm going upstairs," he said, heading toward the staircase. "I'll be in the guest room if you need me. Though I guess I should start calling it my room now, huh? Since technically everything here is about to be liquidated anyway." He disappeared up the stairs, and I heard his footsteps overhead, heavy and careless. I stood there in that foyer for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. My legs felt weak, so I moved to the living room and sat down on the leather couch Richard and I had picked out 30 years ago. How had it come to this? I looked around the room, at the family photos on the mantel, at the grand piano in the corner that nobody played anymore, at the view through the bay windows of the garden Richard had planted before he died. Every single thing in this house had a memory attached to it. This wasn't just property. This was my life. Marcus had been living here for 6 months now. He'd shown up at my door in June with 2 suitcases and a story about needing to reset after his latest business failure. "Just for a few weeks, Mom," he'd said. "Just until I get back on my feet." Those few weeks had turned into half a year, and in that time, I'd watched my son transform from the boy who used to bring me dandelions when he was 5 into someone I barely recognized. The requests for money became demands. The gratitude became entitlement. The respect became contempt. 2 weeks ago, he'd started bringing these men to the house. Financial consultants, he called them. They wore cheap suits and had eyes that made my skin crawl. They'd walk through my home, taking notes, measuring rooms, discussing market value and quick sale potential, like I wasn't even there. "Mom, you're being selfish," Marcus had told me last Tuesday. "You're sitting on all this capital while I'm trying to build something real. Don't you want to see me succeed?" Of course I wanted to see him succeed. I'd wanted nothing more for 32 years. But this wasn't about success anymore. This was about something darker, something that scared me more than I wanted to admit. I pulled out my phone and stared at Dr. Victor Ashford's number. Victor had been my attorney for 15 years, ever since I'd started building my real estate portfolio. He was the one who'd helped me navigate Richard's estate after the accident. He was also the one who'd been warning me about Marcus for the past 2 years. "Helena, I'm telling you this as your lawyer and your friend," Victor had said 6 months ago when Marcus first moved in. "You need to protect your assets. Your son has demonstrated a pattern of financial irresponsibility, and from what you've told me, it's escalating. Let me help you set up some legal protections." I'd been offended at the time. How dare he suggest I needed to protect myself from my own child? But Victor had insisted, and eventually I'd agreed to let him draw up some documents. Just as a precaution, I'd told myself, just in case things get worse. Things had gotten worse. I heard Marcus moving around upstairs, drawers opening and closing. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from my sister Elena in Poland. "Called 3 times. You're not answering. Please tell me you finally threw that boy out." Elena had seen through Marcus years ago. She'd tried to warn me after the 3rd failed business. "He's using you, Siostra. You're not helping him by giving him everything. You're destroying him." I'd hung up on her. We hadn't spoken in over a year after that fight. She'd said things I wasn't ready to hear. Things about how I'd been overcompensating for Richard's death by spoiling Marcus. Things about how I'd never let him face real consequences. Things that were probably true, but hurt too much to acknowledge. My phone rang again. This time, it was Victor. "Helena," his voice came through, professional but concerned. "I just got a very strange call from a paralegal I know. Someone's been asking about how to contest property ownership in Connecticut. They mentioned your address specifically." My blood ran cold. "When?" "This afternoon. Helena, what's going on?" I told him about Marcus's ultimatum, about the threat, about the men with the cheap suits, about feeling like a prisoner in my own home. Victor was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Remember those documents I prepared 6 months ago? The trust, the revised will, the power of attorney revocations?" "Yes." "Good. Because I think it's time we made sure those protections are in place." "And Helena?" He paused. "There's something else you should know. I've been doing some quiet investigating based on what you've told me about Marcus's recent activities. The people he owes money to aren't legitimate investors. They're loan sharks, dangerous ones. He's in deep, $380,000 deep." I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. "How do you know this?" "I hired a private investigator last month. I'm sorry, Helena. I know I should have asked your permission first, but I was worried. The report came back yesterday. Your son is in serious trouble. And from what I can tell, he's planning to use your assets to dig himself out." Upstairs, I heard Marcus on the phone, his voice rising. "I told you, I'll have the money by the end of next month. Yes, I'm sure. My mother's signing the papers tomorrow. It's handled." He'd already promised them my house. He'd already spent the money in his head. My home, my security, my memories, all of it was just currency to him. "Victor," I said quietly, "those documents you prepared, where are they now?" "In the safe in my office. Why?" "I want you to bring them to me, tonight. And I want you to bring copies of that investigator's report, too." "Helena, what are you planning?" I looked up at the ceiling, at the shadow of my son moving across the floor above me. "I'm planning to stop being a victim in my own home. I'm planning to remind my son that he's not the only one who knows how to make strategic decisions. And most importantly, I'm planning to finally do what I should have done years ago. Let him face the consequences of his choices." "I'll be there in an hour," Victor said. "And Helena, I'm proud of you." I hung up and sat in the quiet of my living room. 32 years ago, I'd held a tiny baby in my arms and promised him I'd always protect him. I'd kept that promise maybe too well. I'd protected him from failure, from disappointment, from reality itself. And in doing so, I'd created someone who thought the world owed him everything, and consequences were for other people. Marcus came back downstairs an hour later. He walked right past me to the kitchen, grabbed a beer from the fridge, a beer I'd paid for, and came back to lean against the doorframe. "So, we're good for tomorrow, right?" he said. "I scheduled the notary for 10 a.m. We'll get everything signed, put the house on the market by the weekend. You should probably start packing. I found a few assisted living places online. There's one in New Britain that's only $1,800 a month. Pretty decent for what it is. $1,800 a month. My mortgage payment on this house was paid off 20 years ago. My property taxes were less than Marcus was proposing I pay to live in a studio apartment." "I've been thinking," I said carefully. "Maybe we should discuss this more, talk through the details, make sure we're both clear on everything." Marcus's expression darkened. "There's nothing to discuss, Mom. This is happening, and honestly, you should be grateful. I'm taking care of everything. Finding you a place, handling the sale, managing the finances, all you have to do is sign. And if I don't?" The words came out before I could stop them. He stared at me, and for a second I saw something flash across his face. Anger, maybe fear. "Don't be stupid," he said flatly. "You don't have a choice. I've already talked to a lawyer about elder care and financial competency. If you won't sign voluntarily, I can have you declared unable to manage your own affairs. Especially at your age, with your stress levels, it wouldn't be hard to make a case." It was a bluff. It had to be a bluff. But the fact that he'd even said it told me everything I needed to know about how far he was willing to go. "I see," I said quietly. "Good, so we're clear. 10 a.m., Mom. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." He went back upstairs, and I heard his door close. I checked my watch. Victor would be here in 20 minutes. And then we'd go over every single document, every single protection he'd put in place. My son thought he'd won. He thought his silence meant defeat. He had no idea that sometimes the quietest people are simply the ones planning the most carefully. In my office, hidden in the wall safe behind my desk, there was a folder. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., Marcus was going to learn that his mother wasn't the helpless old woman he thought she was. He was going to learn that there were consequences for cruelty. And most painfully, he was going to learn that some bridges once burned can never be rebuilt. But that was tomorrow. Tonight, I had documents to review and a future to protect. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about how I'd gotten here, to this moment where my own son was trying to steal my home. 12 years. That's how long it had been since I buried Richard. June 14th, 2013. The police officer had knocked on my door at 2 a.m. "Mrs. Westmore, there's been an accident." Those 5 words changed everything. Richard was driving home from a business dinner in Hartford. Some kid ran a red light doing 60 in a 35 zone. The impact killed Richard instantly. The kid walked away with a broken arm. That's how life works sometimes. Completely unfair, completely random. Marcus was 20 years old when his father died. He was in his junior year at UConn studying business administration. He came home for the funeral and stayed for 3 months. I remember thinking at the time that we were healing together, that our shared grief was bringing us closer. Looking back now, I realize that was when everything started going wrong. I'd built my real estate business from nothing. I came to America from Poland in 1990 at 23 years old with $800 in my pocket and a degree in architecture that nobody here recognized. I worked as a cleaning lady for 3 years, saving every penny. Then I bought my first property, a rundown duplex in New Britain that everyone said was a terrible investment. I fixed it up myself, learning plumbing and electrical work from library books and helpful contractors who took pity on the young immigrant woman asking 1,000 questions. I rented out both units, used that income to buy another property, then another. By the time the recession hit in 2008, I owned 11 commercial properties. While everyone else was panicking, I was buying. Property values crashed, and I had cash. That's how I built a $4.2 million portfolio, through work, sacrifice, and smart decisions. Richard had been my partner in every sense. He handled the legal side while I handled acquisitions and management. Together, we'd created something real. This house was the first property we bought together in 1995. Richard proposed to me in the empty living room the day we got the keys. We got married 6 months later, and I got pregnant with Marcus almost immediately. I was 30 years old when he was born, and I'd never loved anything as much as I loved that baby. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe I loved him too much. Richard had always been the disciplinarian. When Marcus wanted something, he'd come to me first because he knew I'd say yes. "Helena, you're spoiling him," Richard would say. "He needs to learn that life doesn't hand you everything on a silver platter." But I'd grown up with nothing. I'd worn the same 3 dresses for 2 years as a teenager. I'd gone to bed hungry more nights than I could count. So when my son wanted new sneakers or the latest video game console, how could I say no? I had the money. Why shouldn't he have everything I never did? After Richard died, there was no one to balance me out anymore. Marcus dropped out of college 6 months after the funeral. "I can't focus, Mom," he'd said. "Everything reminds me of Dad. I need to take some time." That sometime turned into 2 years of him living at home, supposedly grieving, while I paid for everything. Then suddenly, he had this idea for a tech startup. Some kind of social media app for college students to trade textbooks. He was so excited about it, so passionate. It was the first time I'd seen light in his eyes since his father's death. "I just need seed money," he'd told me over dinner one night. $50,000 to get started. I've got the business plan all worked out." "This could be huge, Mom. Life-changing." I gave him $60,000. Why not? I had it. And seeing him motivated again felt worth any price. The startup failed within 8 months. Marcus blamed the market, blamed his business partner, blamed the economy. He never once blamed himself, and I never once asked him to pay back the money. 6 months later, there was another idea. A food delivery service specifically for healthy meals. "Mom, this is it. I learned from my mistakes with the last one. I know what I'm doing now." Another $80,000, another failure within a year. Then there was the fitness app, the cryptocurrency investment scheme, the online coaching platform. Each time, Marcus was absolutely convinced it would work. Each time, I believed him because I wanted to. Each time, my bank account got lighter and his excuses got more elaborate. "You don't understand business, Mom," he'd say whenever I questioned him. "This stuff is complicated. Just trust me, okay?" And I did trust him. Because he was my son, and I'd raised him, and surely he had some of my work ethic, some of Richard's intelligence. Surely all that money wasn't just disappearing into nothing. Elena tried to warn me. My sister called me after I'd funded the 3rd failed venture. "Helena, you need to stop," she'd said in Polish. "You're not helping him. You're teaching him that failure has no consequences, that Mommy will always be there with her checkbook." "You don't understand," I'd snapped back. "He's going through something. He lost his father. He needs support, not criticism." "He needs to grow up," Elena had said bluntly. "He's 28 years old, Helena. When are you going to let him stand on his own feet?" We'd fought for an hour. She'd said things I didn't want to hear, that I was enabling him, that I was substituting Richard with Marcus in unhealthy ways, that I was scared of being alone so I'd tied my son to me with money. I'd hung up on her and hadn't spoken to her since. But late at night, in moments like this, I wondered if she'd been right. Victor had tried to warn me too. About 2 years ago, he'd asked me to lunch and brought up Marcus gently. "Helena, I've been your attorney for a long time, long enough to speak frankly. The amount you're transferring to your son each year is concerning. Have you thought about setting up a trust with conditions, something that encourages financial responsibility?" I'd gotten defensive. "He's building businesses, Victor. That takes capital. You of all people should understand that." I understand investing in viable ventures, Victor had said carefully. But Helena, from what you've told me, none of these businesses have succeeded. Has Marcus ever shown you actual business plans, financial projections? Have you asked for accountability? I hadn't. Because asking felt like I didn't believe in him. And what kind of mother doesn't believe in her own child? Just think about it, Victor had said. Consider some protections, not because you don't love him, but because you do. I'd thought about it for exactly one day, then pushed it out of my mind. That was 2 years ago. Since then, I'd given Marcus another $300,000 across various investments and opportunities. Not one had returned a single penny. When he'd shown up at my door 6 months ago asking to move back in, I'd said yes immediately. Just until I get back on my feet, Mom. The last business partner screwed me over. I need to regroup. I'd set up the guest room for him, bought new furniture, stocked the kitchen with his favorite foods. I was just happy to have him close again. The house had felt so empty for so long. For the first month, things seemed almost normal. We'd have dinner together, watch movies, talk about his plans. He was charming and affectionate, the way he used to be when he was younger. "I'm going to make you proud, Mom," he'd say. "I'm going to pay back every dollar and then some. You'll see." Then the second month, he started staying out late, coming home at 3, 4 in the morning, sleeping until noon. When I asked where he'd been, he'd get irritated. "I'm networking, Mom. That's how business works. You build relationships." The third month, he started bringing people to the house. Rough-looking men who'd sit in the living room, talking in low voices. Once I walked in on a conversation and heard one of them say, "That's a lot of interest, Marcus. You sure you're good for it?" When I asked Marcus about it later, he'd waved me off. "Business investors. Don't worry about it." The fourth month, he started talking about the house, how much it was worth, how I didn't really need all this space, how it was inefficient capital allocation for me to live here alone. At first I thought he was just making conversation. Then the comments got more frequent, more pointed. "You know, Mom, you could downsize and live comfortably off the difference for the rest of your life. Have you ever thought about that? This house is probably your biggest asset. You're basically living in $1 million bank vault. That's just bad financial planning. If something happened to you, this place would just get sold anyway. Might as well do it now while you can enjoy the money." That's when I'd finally called Victor and told him I wanted to implement those protections he'd suggested years ago. "Better late than never," he'd said, and I'd heard the relief in his voice. We'd spent 3 meetings going over everything. The house was transferred into an irrevocable trust that only I controlled. My will was revised to leave most of my estate to charities, with only a modest trust fund for Marcus. All powers of attorney I'd previously given him were revoked. Everything was locked up tight. "Keep these documents in your safe," Victor had said. "Don't tell Marcus about them yet. Just know they're there if you need them." I'd put them in the wall safe in my office and tried not to think about why I might need them. That was 6 months ago. And now here we were, my son threatening to force me into a nursing home so he could steal my house. I got up around 5 in the morning and made coffee. Sat at the kitchen table watching the sun come up through the window. This kitchen had been the heart of our family for 30 years. I'd made thousands of meals here, celebrated birthdays, holidays, ordinary Tuesdays. Richard had proposed adding the bay window for our 20th anniversary. "So you can watch your garden while you cook," he'd said. How had that little boy who used to sit at this table doing homework, who used to help me frost Christmas cookies, who used to tell me about his dreams, how had he turned into someone who could look me in the eye and tell me I deserved to rot in a cheap nursing home? I heard footsteps upstairs. Marcus was waking up. In a few hours, he expected me to sign papers selling my home. He had no idea what was actually about to happen. I went to my office and opened the safe. The folder was exactly where I'd left it. I pulled it out and spread the documents across my desk. Trust papers, new will, revoked powers of attorney, and the private investigator's report Victor had commissioned. I opened that report and read it again. Details about Marcus's gambling debts, photos of him at casinos, records of loans from people with criminal connections, $380,000 owed to loan sharks who didn't accept payment plans. My son wasn't just irresponsible anymore. He was in real danger. And his solution was to throw his mother under the bus to save himself. I heard him coming down the stairs. I closed the folder and put it back in the safe. Then I went to make breakfast, because that's what mothers do, even when their sons are planning to destroy them. I finished my coffee slowly, letting the silence settle around me. Marcus was upstairs getting ready, probably rehearsing what he'd say to the notary. He had no idea what was coming. At 9:45, the doorbell rang. Marcus practically ran down the stairs, smoothing his blazer. "That's her. Let me get it. You just sit tight and follow my lead, okay?" He didn't wait for my answer. He opened the door with this huge fake smile. "Ms. Patterson, thanks so much for coming on short notice." The notary was a woman in her 50s with reading glasses hanging on a chain around her neck. She had a leather briefcase and a professional demeanor that immediately made Marcus's performance look even more transparent. "Mr. Westmore," she said, shaking his hand. "And you must be Mrs. Westmore." She extended her hand to me, and I shook it. "Helena," I said, "please, come in. Can I get you some coffee?" "That would be lovely, thank you." Marcus shot me a look like I was wasting time, but I ignored him. I led Miss Patterson to the dining room table and went to pour her a cup. My hands were steady. That surprised me. When I came back, Marcus had already spread documents across the table. "So here's what we have," he was saying. "Standard property transfer. My mother's selling the house, and I'm facilitating the sale as her son and financial advisor." "Financial advisor?" Ms. Patterson repeated, pulling out her own papers. "Are you a licensed advisor, Mr. Westmore?" He laughed uncomfortably. "Well, not officially, but I handle a lot of her affairs. She trusts me." Ms. Patterson looked at me. "Mrs. Westmore, do you have an attorney who should be present for this?" "She doesn't need one." Marcus jumped in. "This is straightforward. We're just getting the ball rolling." "I actually do have an attorney," I said quietly. "Dr. Victor Ashford. He's handled my affairs for 15 years. Marcus's jaw tightened. "Mom, we talked about this. Victor doesn't need to be involved in every little thing." Ms. Patterson set down her pen. "With all due respect, Mr. Westmore, a property transfer of this value is not a little thing. Mrs. Westmore, would you like to have your attorney present?" I could feel Marcus's eyes burning into me. This was the moment. I could back down, sign the papers, make my son happy, and lose everything. Or I could stand up for myself. "Yes," I said. "I would like that very much." Marcus slammed his hand on the table. "Are you kidding me right now?" "Mr. Westmore," Ms. Patterson said firmly, "please don't raise your voice. This is a legal proceeding, and your mother has every right to legal counsel." He stood up, his face red. "This is ridiculous. Mom, you're making this so much harder than it needs to be." "I'm protecting myself," I said, "which is something I should have done a long time ago." "Protecting yourself? From what? From your own son trying to help you?" His voice was getting louder. Ms. Patterson started gathering her papers. "I think it's best if we reschedule this for when Mrs. Westmore's attorney can be present. Mrs. Westmore, here's my card. Have Dr. Ashford contact me, and we'll set up a proper meeting." "She's not calling anyone," Marcus said. "Ms. Patterson, my mother gets confused sometimes. She doesn't understand what's in her best interest. That's why I'm here." "Your mother seems perfectly lucid to me, Mr. Westmore." Ms. Patterson handed me her card directly. "Mrs. Westmore, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out." She left, and the moment the door closed, Marcus exploded. "What the hell was that?" he shouted. "You just humiliated me in front of a professional. You made me look like some kind of criminal." "You made yourself look like a criminal," I said, standing up. "Trying to force me to sign documents without my lawyer present. Calling yourself my financial advisor when you can barely manage your own finances." He stepped toward me. "Watch your mouth." I held my ground. Or what, Marcus? What are you going to do? For a second, something dangerous flashed across his face. Then he turned away, ran his hands through his hair. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. You have no idea what these people will do if I don't pay them. Then maybe you shouldn't have borrowed money from criminals, I said. He spun around. How do you know about that? I know a lot of things, Marcus, more than you think. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. I just walked past him toward my office. He followed me. Mom, we need to talk about this. You can't just shut down on me. I'm not shutting down, I said. I'm done being manipulated. I went into my office and started to close the door, but he blocked it with his foot. You think you're so smart, he said. You think you can just decide how this goes. But you're forgetting something. I live here. I'm not going anywhere. And eventually, you're going to have to face reality. The reality is that this is my house, I said, and you're a guest who's overstayed his welcome. His eyes went cold. Be very careful, Mom. You don't want to make me your enemy. You made yourself my enemy when you decided to steal from me, I said, and closed the door in his face. I locked it and leaned against it, my heart pounding. I heard him stand there for a moment, then punch the wall hard enough that I heard the thud. Then his footsteps stomping away. I pulled out my phone and called Victor. Helena, he answered on the first ring. How did it go? I sent the notary away, told her I wanted you present. Good. That was exactly the right move. How did Marcus react? Not well, I said. Victor, I think things are going to get worse before they get better. I'm coming over, he said. Give me 20 minutes. Okay, thank you. I hung up and sat down at my desk. Through the door, I could hear Marcus pacing in the living room, talking on his phone in a harsh whisper. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I heard Marcus answer it. What are you doing here? Marcus's voice hostile. Your mother called me, Victor said calmly. I'm her attorney. She doesn't need you. That's not your decision to make. I opened my office door and walked out. Victor stood in the entryway with his briefcase, wearing a suit like always. He looked at me with concern. Helena, are you all right? I'm fine, I said. Thank you for coming. Marcus stood between us, his whole body tense. This is a family matter, Victor. You don't need to be here. When family matters involve property transfers and legal documents, I absolutely need to be here, Victor said. Now, if you'll excuse us, I need to speak with my client privately. Your client? Marcus laughed bitterly. She's my mother. And she's my client, Victor repeated. Marcus, I'm going to be direct with you. What you attempted this morning was illegal. Trying to coerce your mother into signing property documents without proper legal counsel present, claiming authority you don't have, that's elder financial abuse. Elder abuse? Marcus's voice cracked. Are you out of your mind? I'm trying to help her. You're trying to liquidate her primary asset to pay off your gambling debts, Victor said flatly. The color drained from Marcus's face. What are you talking about? $380,000 in loans from illegal lenders, Victor continued. Multiple casinos in Atlantic City and Mohegan Sun. Online sports betting accounts. Should I go on? Marcus looked at me. You had me investigated? Your own son? I had my assets protected, I said. There's a difference. This is insane, Marcus said, his voice rising. You're both insane. Mom, he's turning you against me. Can't you see that? No one's turning me against you, Marcus. You did that all by yourself. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. I'm your son. And I'm a person, I said, with rights, with property that I worked 30 years to build. And I'm not signing it over to you so you can give it to loan sharks. They'll kill me, he said, and for the first time, his voice broke. Mom, you don't understand. These aren't normal people. They'll actually kill me. For a second, I felt my resolve waver. That was my baby, scared, asking for help. But then, I remembered the way he'd spoken to me yesterday, the way he'd called me dad like I was some obstacle instead of his mother, the way he'd said I should rot in a nursing home. Then maybe, I said quietly, you should have thought about that before you borrowed money you couldn't pay back. His face hardened. Fine. You want to play it like this? Fine. But don't come crying to me when you're old and alone and you realize you pushed away the only family you had left. He grabbed his jacket from the coat rack and headed for the door. Where are you going? I asked. Out, away from you two. I need to think. He slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. Victor waited until we heard his car start and drive away. Then he turned to me. How are you holding up? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to run after him. Part of me wants to change the locks. I'd suggest the latter, Victor said gently. Helena, I need you to understand something. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Marcus is desperate, and desperate people do dangerous things. What should I do? First, we're going to go over every single document in that safe of yours. Make sure everything is absolutely locked down. Then, I'm going to recommend you consider a restraining order. A restraining order against my own son? A restraining order against someone who's threatening you, Victor corrected. Helena, what he tried to do this morning, that was a crime. If you'd signed those papers, he would have stolen over $1 million from you. I sat down on the couch. How did I raise someone capable of that? You didn't, Victor said, sitting beside me. You raised a good kid who got lost. The person threatening you now isn't the child you raised. He's someone grief and addiction and bad choices have created. And you can't save him from that. Only he can save himself. I feel like I'm abandoning him, I said, and I felt tears starting. You're not abandoning him. You're setting boundaries. There's a difference, and sometimes boundaries are the most loving thing you can do. We spent the next 2 hours going through everything. Victor reviewed the trust documents, the will, the power of attorney revocations. Everything was solid. Marcus had no legal claim to my house, my money, or my decisions. The only thing that concerns me, Victor said, is that Marcus doesn't know about these documents yet. When he finds out, he's going to feel trapped. And that's when people make their worst decisions. You think he'll try something? I think he's going to look for those papers you mentioned, the ones he thinks give him authority over the house. And when he can't find them, or when he finds documents he wasn't expecting, Victor paused. Just be careful, Helena. Maybe stay with a friend for a few days. This is my house, I said. I'm not leaving. Victor sighed. Then at least let me install a security camera in your office and keep your phone with you at all times. You really think that's necessary? I think your son is $380,000 in debt to people who break kneecaps, Victor said bluntly. Yes, I think it's necessary. He left around 3 p.m. I walked through my house, this place I'd lived in for 30 years, and it felt different somehow. Less like home, more like a battlefield. Marcus didn't come back for dinner. I made myself a salad I barely touched. At 8, my phone buzzed with a text from him. Staying at a friend's tonight. Need space. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt uneasy. I went to bed early but couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house seemed amplified. The heating system clicking on. The wind against the windows. My own heartbeat. Around 11, I got up and went to my office. I opened the safe and looked at the documents inside. My protection. My proof that I'd thought ahead. I wondered if Marcus would really try to find them. I wondered what would happen when he did. I closed the safe and went back to bed. This time, somehow, I fell asleep. I woke up to my phone ringing. The screen said 2:47 a.m. It was Elena. Helena. Her voice was urgent. Helena, I just got a very strange message from Marcus. What's going on? I sat up, my heart racing. What kind of message? He said if anything happens to him, it's your fault. He said you refused to help him when he needed you most. He said, she paused. He said goodbye. Goodbye? Like a final goodbye, Helena. I'm scared. What's happening? I don't know, I said, getting out of bed. Let me call him. I hung up with Elena and dialed Marcus. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. Then I heard it, a sound downstairs, very faint, like someone trying to be quiet. I grabbed my phone and crept to my bedroom door, opened it slowly. The hallway was dark, but downstairs I could see a thin line of light coming from under my office door. Someone was in my office. I should have called the police. That's what any reasonable person would have done. But instead, I walked downstairs as quietly as I could, because I knew who was in that office, and I needed to see what he was doing. The office door was slightly open. Through the crack, I could see Marcus. He was crouched in front of the open safe, pulling out documents. His hands were shaking. I watched him open the first folder, watched his eyes scan the first page of the trust documents, watched the exact moment he understood what he was reading. His face went white. He flipped to the next page, then the next. His breathing got faster. Then he found the investigator's report, the photos, the documentation of everything he'd tried to hide. No, he whispered, no, no, no. He kept flipping through pages, faster and faster, his whole body starting to shake. That's when I pushed the door open. Find what you were looking for? Marcus jumped like I'd fired a gun. Papers scattered across the floor around him. His face was a mess, eyes red, cheeks streaked with tears I hadn't expected to see. How long have you been standing there? His voice came out hoarse. Long enough, I said. I stepped into the office and turned on the overhead light. The brightness made us both squint. He looked down at the papers in his hands, the trust documents, the investigator's report, the new will. You've been planning this, he said. For months, you've been setting me up. I've been protecting myself, I corrected. There's a difference. Protecting yourself from what? From me? I'm your son. His voice cracked on the last word. You're the person who told me I should rot in a nursing home, I said quietly. You're the person who tried to steal my house. So yes, Marcus, I was protecting myself from you. He stared at the papers like they were written in a language he couldn't understand. The house is in a trust, an irrevocable trust. Yes? I can't touch it. Even if you wanted to sell it, I can't touch it. That's correct. He flipped to another page, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold it. And you changed your will. Everything goes to charity. I get $15,000 a year until I'm 65. Enough to live on if you're careful, I said. Not enough to waste. $15,000 a year. He looked up at me, and there was something wild in his eyes. Mom, these people I owe money to, they'll kill me for $15,000 a year. Do you understand that? They will actually kill me. Then you need to go to the police, I said. The police? He laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. You think the police are going to protect me from these guys? You think I can just file a report and they'll go away? I think you need to face the consequences of your choices, I said, like I'm facing mine. Your choices? He stood up, documents falling from his lap. What consequences are you facing? You get to keep your house, your money, your perfect little life. I'm the one who's going to die because you wouldn't help me. I've been helping you for 10 years. My voice rose before I could stop it. $1.8 million, Marcus. That's how much I've given you. And you burned through every cent. When was it supposed to be enough? When was I supposed to stop? When I actually needed it, he shouted. All those other times, yeah, okay, I screwed up. But this time is different. This time it's life or death. It's always life or death with you, I said. Every failed business was going to ruin you. Every missed opportunity was going to destroy your future. You've been crying wolf for so long, I don't even know if you remember what the truth sounds like anymore. He picked up the investigator's report, held it up. You had me followed. You hired someone to spy on me. I hired someone to find out the truth, I said. Because you wouldn't tell me. Because every time I asked you what was going on, you lied. I lied because I knew you'd react like this. He threw the papers down. I knew you'd judge me, just like Dad always did. Nothing I ever did was good enough for either of you. Don't you dare, I said, my voice low. Don't you dare bring your father into this. He loved you more than anything in this world. He died coming home to you. And you've spent 12 years spitting on his memory by wasting every opportunity, every dollar, every chance anyone's ever given you. Marcus's face crumpled. I didn't ask him to die. I didn't ask to lose him. Neither did I said, and I felt my own tears starting. Neither did I, Marcus, but I didn't use it as an excuse to destroy my life. I didn't gamble away everything we built together. I didn't threaten the one parent I had left. I never threatened you, he said weakly. You told me to rot in a nursing home, I said. You tried to have me declared incompetent. You brought criminals into my house. How is that not a threat? He sank back down to the floor, his back against the desk. For a moment he looked exactly like he had at 5 years old, sitting in timeout, trying to understand why the world wasn't giving him what he wanted. I don't know what to do, he whispered. Mom, I really don't know what to do. They're going to hurt me, maybe kill me. I owe $380,000, and I've got nothing. The house was my only option. I should have felt victorious in that moment. I should have felt justified. But all I felt was tired and sad and so angry at him, at myself, at the universe for putting us here. You have options, I said. They're not easy options, but they exist. You can go to the police. You can declare bankruptcy. You can leave the state, start over somewhere else. Run away. He looked up at me. That's your advice? Run away? My advice is to stop expecting other people to fix your problems, I said. I'm done, Marcus. I'm done funding your mistakes. I'm done being your safety net. I'm done sacrificing my security so you can keep making the same choices over and over. So that's it? His voice was bitter now. You're just cutting me off? Your only son? I'm setting a boundary, I said. Something I should have done years ago. Maybe if your father and I had let you fail the first time, or the second, or the third, you wouldn't be here right now. Maybe you'd have learned to stand on your own feet. Or maybe I'd be dead already, he said. Then that would have been your choice, I said, and the words felt like glass in my throat. Not mine. We sat in silence for a long moment. The office clock ticked loudly. Outside, I heard a car pass on the street. What happens now? Marcus finally asked. Now, I said. You leave. You pack your things and you leave my house. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Marcus. Figure it out, like an adult. He started gathering the papers, trying to put them back in order. His hands were still shaking. Can I at least take these? The trust documents? The will? No, I said. Those stay here. I just want to understand what you did, he said. You understand perfectly well, I said. I made sure you couldn't steal from me. That's what you need to understand. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the moment something shifted in his eyes. The desperation faded, replaced by something colder. You're going to regret this, he said quietly. Is that another threat? It's a prediction, he said. When I'm gone, when you're alone in this big house with nobody, you're going to wish you'd chosen differently. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll still have a house. He stood up, brushed off his jeans. Walked to the door, then stopped. You know what the worst part is? He said without turning around. I actually believed you loved me. I thought that's what mothers did. They loved their kids no matter what. I do love you, I said, and my voice broke. That's why I'm doing this. Because loving you doesn't mean destroying myself for you. He left without answering. I heard him go upstairs, heard drawers opening and closing, heard the sounds of him packing. 20 minutes later, I heard the front door open and close, heard his car start, heard him drive away. I sat in my office surrounded by scattered papers, evidence of everything I'd done to protect myself from my own child. And I cried. Not because I regretted it, but because it had come to this at all. My phone buzzed, a text from Elena. "Is everything okay? Should I call?" I texted back, "He's gone. I'm okay. I'll call you tomorrow." But I wasn't okay. I was 58 years old, sitting alone in my office at 3 a.m, having just kicked out my only son. Nothing about that was okay. I gathered up the papers and put them back in the safe, locked it. Then I went to check that all the doors were locked too, because even though Marcus was gone, I wasn't entirely sure what he might do next. Victor's words echoed in my head. Desperate people do dangerous things. I just hoped Marcus would prove him wrong. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. How could I? I kept replaying the look on Marcus's face when he'd read those documents, the way his voice had broken when he said the people he owed money to would kill him. Part of me wanted to call him, to take it all back, to write him a check and make it all go away like I always had. But I didn't, because for the first time in 12 years, I was choosing myself. Morning came slowly. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table watching the sun rise over Richard's garden. The roses needed pruning. I'd been putting it off for weeks. Maybe I'd do it today. Maybe I'd do all the things I'd been putting off while I worried about Marcus. My phone rang around 8. "Victor." "I got your text from last night," he said. "Are you okay?" "I'm still processing," I said. "He found the documents. He knows everything now." "How did he react?" "Badly. Then he left. Packed his things and drove away around 3:30 this morning." Victor was quiet for a moment. "Helena, I need you to be very careful for the next few days. Marcus is going to be processing too, and when the reality of his situation fully hits him, there's no telling what he might do." "You think he'll come back?" "I think he's backed into a corner with no way out," Victor said carefully. "And cornered animals are unpredictable. I'm going to file for a temporary restraining order this morning, just as a precaution." "That seems extreme," I said, even though I wasn't sure I believed it. "Extreme would be ignoring the warning signs and ending up in a situation we can't undo," Victor said. "Trust me on this, Helena. Please." "Okay," I said. "File the restraining order." We hung up, and I tried to focus on normal things. I did the dishes. I made my bed. I started a load of laundry. Every few minutes I'd check my phone, but there were no messages from Marcus. Around 11, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw 2 men I didn't recognize. They were wearing casual clothes, jeans, leather jackets, but something about them made my skin crawl. I didn't open the door. "Can I help you?" I called through the door. "Mrs. Westmore?" one of them said. "We're looking for Marcus. He here?" "No," I said. "He doesn't live here." "That's funny," the other one said, "because his car's been parked here for months. We've been watching." My heart started pounding. These were the loan sharks, the dangerous men Marcus owed money to. "He moved out," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I don't know where he went." "You're his mother, right?" the first man said. "Marcus told us all about you. Said you had money, real estate portfolio. Said you were going to help him pay his debts." "I'm not paying his debts," I said firmly. "Whatever Marcus owes you, that's between you and him." The second man laughed, but it wasn't a friendly sound. "See, that's where you're wrong, Mrs. Westmore, because Marcus used your name as collateral. Said if he couldn't pay, his rich mommy would cover it. That makes it between you and us." "I never agreed to that," I said. "Marcus doesn't have the authority to use my name for anything. I'd suggest you take this up with him." "Oh, we will," the first man said. "But in the meantime, you might want to think about how much your son's life is worth to you, because our patience is running out." They walked away, got into a black SUV parked across the street, and drove off. I immediately called Victor. They came to my house, I said, my voice shaking. The people Marcus owes money to. They threatened him. They tried to threaten me. Did they touch you? Enter your property? No, they just talked through the door. But Victor, they said Marcus used my name as collateral. Can he even do that? No, Victor said flatly. He can't. Whatever he told them is meaningless legally. But these aren't legal people, Helena. They don't care about contracts or authority. I'm calling the police right now. Give me your address. I'm sending a patrol car. I'm fine, I said. They're gone. They might come back, Victor said. I'm not taking chances. Stay inside, lock all your doors, and don't open them for anyone except the police or me. I'm coming over. He hung up, and I did exactly what he said. I checked every door, every window. Then I sat in my living room and waited, my phone clutched in my hand. 20 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up. I watched through the window as 2 officers got out and came to my door. I checked through the peephole. Actual police, uniforms, badges. I opened the door. Mrs. Westmore? I'm Officer Chen. This is Officer Rodriguez. Your attorney called about a threatening incident? I told them everything. About Marcus's deaths, about the men at my door, about the threats. They took notes, asked questions, told me they'd increase patrols in my neighborhood. Do you know how to reach your son? Officer Chen asked. I have his cell number, I said. But it's been going straight to voicemail. These men who came to your door, did they give you any way to contact them? Any names? No, I said. They just said their patience was running out. The officers exchanged a look. Mrs. Westmore, we're going to be honest with you. If your son owes money to the kind of people we think he does, this could escalate quickly. Has he indicated any plans to leave the state? To go somewhere safe? No, I said. He just left last night after we had a confrontation. I don't know where he went. Officer Rodriguez handed me a card. If he contacts you, or if those men come back, call us immediately. Don't engage with them. Don't open your door. Just call. They left, and Victor arrived 10 minutes later. He looked more worried than I'd ever seen him. This is getting out of control, he said, pacing in my living room. Helena, I think you should consider staying somewhere else for a few days, a hotel maybe, or with your sister in Poland. I'm not leaving my home because of Marcus's mistakes, I said. I've already given up enough for him. This isn't about giving up, Victor said. This is about staying safe. These people don't care that you're not involved. To them, you're just leverage. Then they're going to be very disappointed, I said. Because I'm not paying his debts, Victor. I meant what I said. I'm done. He looked at me for a long moment. I believe you, he said quietly. I just hope Marcus does too. Victor stayed with me until evening. We went over security measures, reviewed the restraining order paperwork, discussed next steps. Around 6, he finally left, making me promise to call if anything at all, seemed wrong. I made dinner but couldn't eat it. I tried to watch TV but couldn't focus. Every car that drove by made me jump. Every sound in the house made me tense. Around 9, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it. Mom? Marcus's voice. He sounded exhausted. Marcus, where are you? Doesn't matter, he said. I wanted you to know they came to the house. The guys I owe money to. Did they hurt you? No, I said, but they threatened you. They threatened me. Marcus, what did you tell them about me? He was quiet for a moment. I had to give them something, some assurance I could pay. I told them you had assets. I didn't think they'd actually come to your house. Mom, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said. These men think I'm responsible for your debt. Do you understand how dangerous that is? I know, he said, and he sounded like he was crying. I know, and I don't know how to fix it. I've been driving around all day trying to figure out what to do. I don't have $380,000. I don't even have $3,000. Then go to the police, I said. Tell them everything. Get protection. Get help. I can't, he said. If I talk to the police, these guys will know. They have people everywhere. And then it won't just be me they come after. What does that mean? It means they'll hurt you to get to me, he said flatly. That's how they work. They find your weak spot and they exploit it. And Mom, you're my weak spot. Even after everything, you're still what matters most. I felt tears starting. Marcus, you need to turn yourself in. Let the police help you. This is bigger than you can handle alone. Maybe, he said. But I wanted to call you first, to tell you I'm sorry, for all of it. For the way I spoke to you, for trying to take your house, for being such a disappointment. Dad would be ashamed of me. Your father loved you, I said. And so do I. That's why I need you to do the right thing now. Please, Marcus, go to the police. I'll think about it, he said. But Mom, if something happens to me, if these guys find me before I can fix this, I need you to know that none of this was your fault. You were right to protect yourself. You were right about everything. Don't talk like that, I said, my voice breaking. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're going to figure this out. I love you, Mom, he said. I should have said it more. I should have shown it better. But I do love you. Marcus, wait. But he'd already hung up. I tried calling him back. Over and over. Every call went to voicemail. I called Victor, told him about the conversation. He said he'd contact the police, see if they could trace the call, find Marcus before something terrible happened. I spent that night on my couch, phone in hand, jumping at every sound. Sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus as a little boy, laughing in Richard's arms. I saw him at his high school graduation, so proud of himself. I saw him at Richard's funeral, broken and lost. And I saw him crumpled on my office floor, reading documents that proved his mother had given up on him. Around 3 a.m, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your son has 48 hours. After that, we start taking collateral, starting with you. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. I called Victor immediately. They just texted me, I said. A threat. They said they'd come after me if Marcus doesn't pay in 48 hours. Forward me that text right now, Victor said. Then pack a bag. You're not staying there another night. I'm calling the police, and I'm calling a security company. Helena, this is serious. These people are not bluffing. But Marcus made his choices, Victor said firmly. You are not responsible for cleaning up this mess. Pack your bag. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I did as he said. Threw clothes in a suitcase, grabbed my laptop and important documents from the safe. I was zipping up the suitcase when I heard something outside. A car door closing, footsteps on the driveway. I looked out the window. The black SUV from earlier was parked in front of my house. 2 men were walking toward my door. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There are men outside my house, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. They're threatening me over money my son owes them. I need help. What's your address, ma'am? I gave it to her. Please hurry, they're at my door. The doorbell rang. Then someone knocked, hard. Mrs. Westmore, we know you're in there, a voice called. We just want to talk. Police are on their way, the dispatcher said in my ear. Stay on the line with me. Do not open the door. Is there a room you can lock yourself in? My bedroom, I said. Upstairs. Go there now, she said. I grabbed my suitcase and ran upstairs. Got into my bedroom and locked the door. The knocking downstairs got louder. Mrs. Westmore, the voice called again. You've got 48 hours to come up with the money. We're not going to ask again. Then I heard it, the sound of breaking glass. They were coming in. They're breaking in, I told the dispatcher. Please hurry. Police are 2 minutes away, she said. Stay where you are. Stay quiet. I heard footsteps downstairs, heard them moving through my house. Heard one of them say, check upstairs. I backed into my closet, phone still pressed to my ear. Footsteps on the stairs. Getting closer. Then, sirens. Beautiful, wonderful sirens. Police! Everyone out of the house with your hands up! The footsteps stopped, then rushed back down the stairs. I heard shouting, more police commands, then silence. Ma'am? A different voice at my bedroom door. This is Officer Chen. You're safe now. You can come out. I opened the closet, then the bedroom door. Officer Chen was standing there with 2 other officers. Downstairs, I could hear more commotion. Did you catch them? I asked. Both of them, Officer Chen said. They're in custody. Are you hurt? No, I said. Just scared. Come on, she said gently. Let's get you out of here. She led me downstairs. Through my living room window, I could see the 2 men in handcuffs being put into a police car. Victor's car screeched into my driveway, and he ran up to the house. Helena! He pulled me into a hug. Thank God you're okay. I held on to him and finally let myself cry. Not because I regretted protecting myself, not because I wished I'd handled things differently, but because my son's choices had brought violence to my door, and I'd had to face it alone. It's over, Victor said quietly. You're safe now. It's over. But I knew it wasn't over. Not until I knew Marcus was safe too. Not until this nightmare finally ended. The police kept me at the station for 3 hours, taking my statement, asking questions, documenting everything. Victor stayed with me the entire time. Officer Chen explained that the 2 men who'd broken into my house were being charged with breaking and entering, criminal threatening, and attempted extortion. She also told me they were cooperating, giving up information about their operation in exchange for plea deals. What about Marcus? I asked. Have you found him? Not yet, Officer Chen said. But we've got an APB out. If he surfaces anywhere, we'll know. Mrs. Westmore, your son is in serious danger. When we find him, we're going to strongly encourage him to enter witness protection. The information those men are giving us could bring down a major loan shark operation, but that means everyone involved is at risk. Will he go to jail? She looked at me with sympathy. That depends on a lot of factors. His cooperation, whether he's committed any crimes beyond borrowing money, how much the DA decides to pursue. But right now, our priority is keeping him alive. Victor drove me to a hotel around dawn. He'd already arranged everything. A suite on the top floor, security notified of the situation, my name kept off the registry. You'll stay here until we're sure it's safe, he said. I'm having your house secured. New locks, security system, the works. Give it a week. A week, I repeated. It felt like a lifetime. Get some rest, Victor said. I'll call you as soon as I hear anything about Marcus. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw those men in my house, heard them breaking in, felt that terror all over again. By mid-morning, I gave up and called Elena. Helena, she answered immediately. I got your messages. Are you okay? What's happening? I told her everything, all of it. From Marcus's threats to the documents in the safe to the men breaking into my house. Elena listened without interrupting, which wasn't like her at all. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, You did the right thing, Shastra, every single step. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you did. He's missing, Elena, I said, my voice breaking. My son is out there somewhere, running from criminals, and I don't know if he's okay. He made his choices, Elena said gently. You cannot save someone from their own choices. You can only save yourself. And that's what you did. It doesn't feel like winning, I said. Because it's not about winning, she said. It's about surviving. And you survived, Helena. You stood up for yourself. For the first time in 12 years, you chose yourself over enabling him. That takes strength. We talked for another hour. She told me about her restaurant, about her life in Warsaw, about how she'd worried about me for years. When you finally called me back last month, she said. I knew something had shifted. I just hoped it wasn't too late. So did I said. 3 days passed. 3 days of living in a hotel room, jumping every time someone knocked on a door, checking my phone constantly for news about Marcus. Victor called daily with updates. My house was secured. The men who'd broken in were fully cooperating with police. The loan shark ring was being investigated, but no Marcus. On the 4th day, Officer Chen called. Mrs. Westmore, we found your son. He's safe. I felt my knees go weak. Where is he? He turned himself in at a police station in New Haven early this morning, she said. He's been in hiding, trying to figure out what to do. When he heard we'd arrested the men who came to your house, he decided to come in. He wants to cooperate fully. Can I see him? Eventually, yes, Officer Chen said. Right now he's meeting with the DA and FBI. This is bigger than we initially thought. The organization he borrowed from has connections across 3 states. Your son's testimony could be crucial. But Mrs. Westmore, you should know, he asked specifically about you. Asked if you were okay, if they'd hurt you. He seemed genuinely relieved when we told him you were safe. I closed my eyes. Thank you for telling me that. He's going to need a lawyer, Officer Chen said. A good one. He's facing charges for illegal gambling and potentially fraud if they can prove he misrepresented his ability to pay. But given his cooperation, he might avoid jail time, probation, restitution, mandatory counseling, but not jail. Victor helped arrange a criminal defense attorney for Marcus. I paid the retainer, even though Victor argued I shouldn't. He's still my son, I told him. I'm not paying his gambling debts, but I'm not letting him face this without proper representation. A week later, I was finally cleared to return home. The new security system was installed, new locks on every door, motion sensors in the yard. It should have felt safe. Instead, it felt different, like the house had changed somehow, become less home and more just property. I spent a day cleaning up, returning everything to normal. The broken window had been repaired, the glass swept up. You'd never know what had happened here. 2 weeks after that, Marcus called me. His number showed up on my phone, and I stared at it for 3 rings before I answered. Mom? His voice was different, smaller somehow. Marcus, I said. I know I'm not supposed to contact you, he said quickly. The restraining order, but my lawyer said I could call to apologize. That's all this is, an apology. I'm listening, I said. He took a shaky breath. I'm sorry, for everything, for threatening you, for trying to steal your house, for putting you in danger, for the last 12 years of being a complete disaster of a human being. You deserved better than me. Yes, I said quietly. I did. I'm getting help, he said. Real help. Gambling addiction counseling, therapy, the whole thing. It's part of my plea deal, but I think I actually need it. I think I've needed it for a long time. Good, I said. They're sending me away, he said. Witness protection, sort of. Just for a few years until the trials are over and the organization is dismantled. I'll have a new name, a new city, a fresh start. Where? I asked. I can't tell you, he said. That's how it works. But Mom, I wanted you to know, I'm going to use this. I'm going to actually make something of myself. Not for you, not to make up for what I did, but for me, because I'm tired of being this person. I hope you mean that, I said. I do, he said, and he sounded like he meant it. I know you don't have any reason to believe me, but I'm done, Mom. I'm done gambling, done lying, done being that guy. Even if it takes the rest of my life, I'm going to become someone you could actually be proud of. My eyes filled with tears. I've always been proud of you, Marcus. Even when I was disappointed, even when I was angry. I never stopped loving you. That's why I had to stop enabling you, because real love means letting someone face their consequences. I understand that now, he said. I didn't then, but I do now. We were both quiet for a moment. I have to go, he finally said. But Mom, thank you. for standing up for yourself, for not giving in. It's the best thing you could have done for me, even though I couldn't see it at the time." "Take care of yourself, Marcus," I said. "You too, Mom. I love you." "I love you too," I said. The line went dead. I sat in my kitchen for a long time after that, looking out at Richard's garden. The roses did need pruning. I'd do that tomorrow. Today, I just wanted to sit here and feel everything. The grief, the relief, the sadness, the hope. Victor called that evening. "I heard Marcus reached out," he said. "How are you doing?" "I'm okay," I said, and I realized I meant it. "I'm actually okay." "You did an incredibly difficult thing," Victor said. "You protected yourself when it would have been easier to give in. That takes real courage, Helena." "It didn't feel like courage," I said. "It felt like the hardest thing I've ever done." "Courage usually does," he said. 6 months later, I got a letter. No return address, postmarked from somewhere I'd never heard of. Inside was a single page, handwritten in Marcus's scrawl. "Mom, I'm working. Real work with my hands. Construction. I wake up at 5, come home exhausted, fall asleep by 9. I haven't gambled in 6 months, haven't even been tempted. I'm seeing a therapist twice a week. Making minimum wage, but it's mine. I earned it. For the first time in my life, I'm proud of myself. Not of what I might do someday, but of what I'm doing right now. Thank you for not saving me. Thank you for letting me finally grow up. Your son, M." I put the letter in my safe, right next to the documents that had protected me. 2 pieces of paper, 2 versions of my son, the one who tried to destroy me and the one who was finally learning to build himself. I didn't know if Marcus would make it. I didn't know if this fresh start would last, or if he'd fall back into old patterns. But that wasn't my responsibility anymore. My responsibility was to myself, to this house I'd built, this life I'd created, this security I'd fought to protect. I went outside and started pruning the roses. Richard's roses that he'd planted decades ago that had survived through every season. They'd survived the winter. So had I. And that, I realized as I worked in the garden, was enough.